Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogsty. It is now 2 weeks in the New Year, so I'm not gonna say Happy New Year. If you're still saying Happy New Year, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, now you're gonna say it.
Yeah. Well.
Now you're gonna say Happy New Year.
Oh yeah. Oh right. I totally did that thing last week. That's fine.
Yeah, it's a Merry New Year. Yes.
Just trying to mess with Steve as much as possible there. Well, welcome to the show, guys. Of course, we got Dave, we got Steve. I hope you all are enjoying the post-Ron Rivera era of the Washington football team. Obviously, that is going to be our topic number one and probably topic number 2, 3, 4, 5 for today's show. But we do have to talk about the Dallas game. Steve said we should try and keep it under 30 seconds. I'm going to expand it and maybe do a minute.
Okay, fair enough. Do a minute.
I just know how much we all like
What the hell?
What the hell? So it happened. They lost. Thank goodness. I think I was at the game with my buddy who's an actual Cowboys fan, and a real, like, he lived in Dallas, grew up there, Cowboys fan. The stadium was overrun with those people. And it was just not pleasant. That was not pleasant at all. They did give us free giveaway scarves. You guys can see it on the camera behind me. I did not pay for that, just for the record.
Did a bunch of Dallas fans get the scarves also?
They did. And actually, because they were all there early, and I show up 5 minutes before kickoff, one of them just threw it at me. He's like, "Here, I don't want it." So thank you to that guy.
I just think from an economic efficiency standpoint, how many scarves did they make or purchase?
Right.
And then how many ended up in the hands of Dallas fans who probably not only did they not want them, they probably actively destroyed them.
Yeah.
Probably about 70% of them went to Dallas fans, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So it's how much money did they flush down the toilet?
Let's assume they made 10,000. I think usually it's 5,000, 10,000 for a giveaway like this.
$1 or $2 each?
Yeah.
At least?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like you said, 70% went to Cowboys fans.
Well, shouldn't you? I mean, see, I would think about this. If you're going to do a giveaway like that, and you choose to do it the last week of the season, knowing you knew in the beginning when you planned this, our team sucks.
Right.
This isn't going to be a game that is going to be competitive and important. So wouldn't you do it earlier in the year? Like maybe the first, the other Dallas game was in Texas. But
Dave went to a bunch of games. Did they have a giveaway every game you went to?
Yeah, there's always something they gave away. Of course, the one thing I missed out on was the Darrell Green 7x10 or 8x10 photo. I'm like, my favorite all-time player, and when I get there, they're all out. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I make it into everything I want except for that. You're out of your mind.
Yeah, that really is a bummer.
I just would think I would think through it before I give away some gizmo in the last game of the season and a team that sucks.
Right. I remember one year I went and they just were giving away bumper stickers. It was also the last game, and they literally gave me 30 bumper stickers because they're just trying to get rid of them.
Did you put it all over your car and block the window up with red?
No, I have one on my bar though, down in the basement still.
Now I wonder if they are leftovers from week 4, I think, or
maybe
the fourth game, because I know they were giving out scarves then. Is it kind of all black with the multicolors on it, or is it actually
right behind him? Is that the thing right behind you?
Yeah,
that I wrapped up
right here.
Okay.
Burgundy,
it is different than what I got. Okay.
Yeah. Alex is pointing at a shelf behind him for those of you who can't see, which is everyone.
Right. Well, yes. Dave asked for the color. I thought it was kind of obvious.
Well, see, I like that one better that I have up there.
Yeah,
and now Dave is pointing for an audience that can't see it either.
Yes, we're
got
just
a Redskins
logo
on it
in our rooms. That's going to be the show.
Well, if you would look behind me.
Yeah, your wall is actually a lovely shade of burgundy.
And the curtains are
like your
wall behind me.
Yes.
This is accidental, but incidentally, this is an accident.
Right.
That this happened this way.
You don't have any, unlike Dave and I, who kind of put all our merchandise behind us in our shots for no one else but us. Right. Steve has nothing.
Well, it's on the other side of the room.
Right. It's so you can see it, not so.
Yeah, because I don't really care about the camera.
No, I know. I know. All right, so there's not a lot to say about this game.
They went about it like I thought. We all thought they hung. I thought that they tried for a while to play like a real NFL team,
almost the whole half.
Yeah, which is par for the course for this organization, and then it all predictably fell apart eventually, and it looks like a blowout.
Right.
The team sucks. They need to blow it up the end.
They were kind of creative, kind of.
It was called desperation, Alex.
Yes,
I know. Of course, the best part about it for me, and this is a low for me because I texted to you guys before the game that I have family and friends going, okay, let's go Commanders. Come on, Commanders. We want them to win. You'll beat Dallas. I didn't reply to any of them because they have no idea what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking, I just want to secure that number 2 overall pick.
So I think you guys are not real fans. By rooting for your team to lose.
I didn't root for them to lose.
Yes,
I didn't
root
for them to lose. No,
I
didn't.
Yes, you did.
I did not actively root for them at all. No, I did not. I did not. Yes. I just said,
in your head.
I said, I don't care.
That is a lie. That is, you're trying to convince yourself that your hypocrisy is okay. Okay.
And you know what?
Always root for your team to win, no matter what.
You know what? In this house, that hypocrisy was okay for that weekend.
I live in DC.
I will own it for one
hypocrisy
weekend.
Is always okay.
Well, in politics, hypocrisy is applauded.
Yes, exactly.
This isn't politics, though. This is sports. I have admitted my fandom. I'm saying you guys are still diehard fans.
Yes.
And by failing to root for the team to win at all times, you have disgraced yourselves.
I get it.
Yes.
But I got a free scarf out of it.
I'll take that. That's fine. Yeah. It's like how everyone calls me a fraud here in Philadelphia. That's fine.
You know what? I went to a freaking game, spent, good money, knowing they'd lose. So I don't think my fandom can be that much in question.
Did you wear some Washington or Redskins or C-word merchandise?
It was cold, so I did have multiple layers on, but I did have my Tressway jersey on the outside. Me, the one fan in a sea of blue.
It was a nice home game for Dallas.
Yeah, really.
I heard it on the TV. It was cheers every time Dallas did something good.
Yeah. It was very depressing. All right, so Ron's gone. The search is on. I think that's story number 1. We talked more than enough about Dallas game. Season over. Let's move on, folks.
Fair enough.
Day after, they were nice. They did not fire Ron Rivera on his birthday.
Happy birthday. Get out.
Yeah. It was, hey, I hope you had a good birthday last night. Get out. The team wasted no time, though. They brought in Bob Myers from the Golden State Warriors, who was he wasn't their GM. He was like a chief executive president type.
Yeah.
And then Rick Spielman, a former Vikings front office guy, to help Josh Harris with the search. Harris, I think, did a great job. He had with this press conference he had after Ron Rivera was let go and these guys were brought in. He met with the media, just sat there answering any questions they had for about 20 minutes.
That's what little Danny Snyder should have done years ago.
Yeah, Dan Snyder never did that in my memory. Like, whenever they fired or hired anyone, he never really talked. He would introduce them, and then he would sit down and slump in his chair.
And of course, the crazy part is that the good old troll Tom Lovato,
I saw,
always ridiculed Dan for doing the way he did, and then you have Josh Harris thinking outside the box, and he's like, oh, well, he needs outside help. He needs this kind of help to try to find a coach. I'm just like,
I'd like to explain something because I've been in this world, as some of you know.
Yes.
The fact that this guy, what's the Golden State Warriors guy's name?
Bob Myers.
So there's an industry of sports executives. Okay, they're not unique to each individual sport. The people who do the picking of the player, the GM and the scouts and stuff are unique to sports. But there's a career path for sports executive, and they do float around between leagues, and they hire people away from one sport into another. It is not that uncommon. And what a guy like Myers, he doesn't need to be a football expert. He's not a football expert. He's not a basketball expert, but he knows the kind of person who the team needs to run the sports side of it. Okay. And that's what Myers is here for. And so I think I don't know him personally, but if you look at, I mean, I don't know any of him personally, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't know his career that well, but he's done a great job with Golden State. Look at the teams and the coaches that they have put together. Historically great teams. And so just because don't be scared, just because he's from basketball, because it's not really about that. He's not going to be picking players. It's this guy that sets the tone for the organization. And that is what you want. And that's what we've always wanted here in Washington, is a guy like that.
And his official title is that he's just an advisor to the ownership. Like, he is not.
This may be like Jason Wright needs to be nervous.
Well, I don't know if he's even going to have that kind of role. I don't know. He's going. I think it's going to be, hey, who do I need to talk to? Well, talk to this guy. Here's the question.
He might just not want to burn the whole place down all at once, Harris. Right. I'd definitely be nervous if I was what's his face.
Oh, so I am looking it up. He was the assistant general manager and general manager at Golden State for the last since 2011. Those were his titles. So he does come from that side of it.
He's a sports executive. That's what he is.
Right.
Trust me.
Also, basketball, very different sports executive job than
but it's still but running a professional sports franchise is no different. The difference is, you need to be a basketball guy to pick basketball player. I get it.
You need to know what to look for in leaders is really what it is.
In sports leaders.
Yeah, that's what this guy's here to do. Is he's here to say, and I've been reading about some of these GM interviews they've already started doing, and one of the quotes I just read, I can't remember if it was NBC Sports or where, but they were saying the interviews are geared all towards getting these guys in, getting rid of all the prepared fluff that they might have in their interview discussion, and get to the heart of how do you feel, what is your philosophy, how do you build a team, that kind of stuff. Like, and that's what Myers and Spielman are here to do, is they know, all right, I don't need your PR BS. I don't need the yes man stuff. I need to know your nitty gritty, who you are going to be as general manager.
Well, I read the same report too. I was going to actually going to mention that too. And what was interesting is how the interview process is designed. They're actually talking to Bob Myers individually off on one side first, and then they'll go on and talk to Josh Harris and Spielman. So just so the way it's structured, how the questions are asked and how they're particularly geared, it kind of eliminates exactly what you're talking about. Because instead of them almost having like a scripted thing they're going to have in their mind what they're going to say. Now it's like, okay, well, I got to talk to him. What are they going to ask? And Bob Myers, he's not even a football guy. What's he going to ask altogether? So, it's a pretty interesting dynamic how he has it set up.
Well, I mean, jobs like this don't have one interview.
No.
These are jobs you do multiple, they're long, you do multiple, talk to multiple people. There's not like an HR person there writing out scripted questions like, corporations, big corporations do. That's not what this is for those of you out there. So it's not surprising that you do multiple interviews like that, but I guarantee you there's not a script. I guarantee you they have an idea what they want to talk about, but it's more like a conversation, than anything.
They're probably going in with a couple bullet points like, I need to know this from him, that from him. But, we've heard about these interviews before. Some of them are marathon sessions for these jobs.
Well, you said the right thing earlier, Alex. I mean, they need to learn whether these candidates' philosophies are what they want in a team leader. That's what you're trying to find out.
Right. Is this guy going to be a dictator? Because Josh
whatever
Harris,
you want or don't want. I mean, you got to learn that.
Right. Josh Harris was very candid and kind of open-minded, I think, in his, press conference where he said, he definitely wants to build things the right way, but you also have to be flexible. If a superstar comes along and you have a chance at a guy you think can be the cornerstone of your franchise, you might have to change your philosophy a little, I think Harris, I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to his full press
conference. I did not listen to any of it.
It was he was very candid throughout, Right. They asked him about, I don't think there was any question he dodged. It may the only one maybe being the name, change debate in which he was basically like, look, I'm focused on this right now. This is more important, is finding a general manager and a coach. So like he dodged that. But It's not like he just totally sidestepped it. I think that's an honest answer for him. So, yeah, the discussion's interesting. The candidates they've already started to talk to are basically every big name you would have expected, but there are a couple surprises. We'll start with Dave's guy, Alec Halby. He was in there. He was one of the guys mentioned by you. Probably week 1 of preseason, Dave? That's when you first kind of.
I've been mentioning him since week 1 of the official announcement that he was interested in buying the team.
Yeah,
right.
So that's fair. That is your guy. That's been your guy for a long time.
Right.
It looks like the favorite, at least in the media, is Adam Peters, the 49ers assistant general manager. He, I think, was the first one to come out and interview, or maybe second, but he's already gone through the first round. Ian Cunningham of the Bears, Mike Borgonzi, I don't know.
Borgonzi.
Borgonzi.
Mm-hmm. Borgonzi, yeah.
Yeah, Chiefs assistant general manager. This one surprised me. Glenn Cook from the Browns, their assistant GM.
Haven't the Browns been a train wreck up until like this year?
Yeah, and then you had the whole thing with Creepy.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and that's just one of the weird things they've done. I wouldn't want a guy from the Browns in there. No, thank you. I mean, you got to think that Adam Peters would be the favorite, probably. The team is successful. The 49ers didn't pull that move that you're talking about. They could have promoted him. It kind of given him an internal promotion basically, and kept Washington from interviewing him because it wouldn't have been a promotion in Washington.
Although there is word that they still might try and do that.
Maybe, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Well, see, the only thing they can promote him to is just general manager.
Yeah.
He's being brought in an interview for basically president of football operations. That what John Lynch is out there.
Yeah. Okay. So let me
tell. So it would be a promotion for him, though, to an extent.
Yeah.
So the rules in the NFL are that if you're promoting, if you have a vacancy and you want to interview somebody for the vacancy and it's a promotion for them, then they can interview for it. If it's not a promotion, then the team can block it by virtue of the existence of the contract. So the idea here is that Adam Peters would be getting a promotion going from the 49ers to Washington because he'd be the president of football operations or something along those lines. Yeah. Whereas in 49ers actually could give him a new title, but still keep him below John Lynch, but give him a new title, and it would maybe be the same, and they wouldn't be allowed to hire him. Washington.
Right.
That's
this is where I always get confused by that rule, because people can just make up new titles and new hierarchies, and it doesn't change anything all the time. Like, all right, so we want to keep Adam Peters. All right, John Lynch is now the chief executive of football operations. Adam Lynch is the executive.
Well, it's probably, truthfully, it's a contract thing, most likely, because like the employment contract is going to say it doesn't allow the person to terminate the contract at will necessarily. There's provisions about it. So it's going to say, if I get an offer for a promotion, then I can terminate this contract. In which case the team would not be required to pay out the remaining balance of the contract. That's really what we're talking about here. And so, I mean, you could play semantic games with that. You could.
As long as you're also willing to put some money in it, I guess.
It'd have to be money too. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a lot of good names. I think overall, they're interviewing what were the most popular, sought-after GM candidates out there.
To me, if you ask me, who is Glenn Cook, the Chiefs guy?
He's the Browns guy.
Okay, him and Borgonzi would be out. I do not want any more Chiefs retreads in this franchise. They're just no, thank you. And Andy Reid runs everything there anyway. He's the genius. Yeah. Forget him. The Browns, there's just by virtue of the fact that they're associated with the Browns, you're out. So to me, if I were rank ordering them, I'd go Peters, Halby, Cunningham. I like Peters because he's been in an outstanding organization. He knows how to win. Halby's been in too also. I know he's a little bit more stats oriented, so I
Yeah.
kind of I don't like that as much. So I'd go Peters and Cunningham with the Bears. I mean, the Bears haven't had a ton of success.
Well, but he's only been with them for 2 years.
I get it. But you want me to rank order them? I mean, that's what I'm doing.
So, I think it's interesting. We're all probably going to go different first. My Cunningham's my top guy. I really want a guy from that Ozzie Newsome tree, and that's where he.
I understand. Yeah, it's not a bad thought.
He came from that whole Ravens hard nosed, build a tough team, a deep.
I don't have a problem with any of them really.
Yeah. I think they're all good candidates.
Right.
And we as long as you don't have an owner who screws you over, like I think you have a chance. You got to get lucky a few places, but you also have to, just have a good eye for talent. So, Cunningham's my number one. I like Halby and Peters pretty much equally after that. I'm with you though. I would avoid the Browns like a plague, and I just don't trust the Chiefs.
I don't either.
I just don't.
Well, as far as that order, I know I've talked Hallaby all year long, all season, everything, but it took my article to kind of alter how I feel about these potential candidates, because Peters to me jumps to the top of the list to me because, I mean, he was with the Broncos for some time, then we went to San Francisco, but he was under San Francisco with their roster construction that focused not only just building in the trenches, but when you look at that team, defense and offense, and the flexibility they have across the entire roster, how all the pieces mesh and how they come together. Like I said a couple weeks ago, how Deebo Samuels and Ayuk, I mean, Deebo Samuels goes down, Ayuk can fill the role of Deebo Samuels just like that, really. And you have that throughout the entire team. They have interchangeable parts to a certain point, so they don't really lose a step, and I really like how I really like how he puts together the organization in a very philosophical way, and he doesn't deter from that. And you get that from San Francisco as a whole. Ian Cunningham he's primarily from the Baltimore tree and someone from Philadelphia. He was only with Chicago since 2022 anyway.
Yeah.
And even then, if you look at what they've done since then, I mean, they have brought in some quality talent in terms of like Jaquan Brisker and their left tackle Braxton Jones.
It's about more than that, though. It's about being a part of a winning culture. I mean, because
you're right.
Because you hire the scouts, that's equally important to me. If it were me and it was my decision, I'd want the winning culture. Who can establish a winning culture? That would be my principal question.
Well, see, and that's why I do like Cunningham just slightly over Hallaby, because he'd been with Baltimore since 2013, and then he'd been with Baltimore since 2008. I'm sorry, and then with Philadelphia, he was there for a few years as well. So he was in two very grounded, strong organizations for a very long period of time. So and he is very similar to Peters in terms of roster construction, interior, philosophically, they all kind of intermesh depending upon what the coach wants to run and whatnot. And like you, Steve, I still have the reservations of Hallaby is too much analytics, even though when I watch his symposium, he talks heavily about tape and everything, but still he's so heavy on analytics. You have to really kind of have some concern about that. I do agree with you on that.
I think, those are all fair concerns. I think the hardest thing for me about Peters, you were talking about how they've built that fairly exotic offense. I don't know how well you can replicate that in any other city with another coach. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's kind of infamous for being the mad scientist of offensive coordinators right now when it comes to his use of, outside the box, run game and, just the way he mixes everything up. I don't think of any. Maybe you could look at Andy Reid back in his early days and say he was like that. There's not a lot of guys who have that kind of creativity.
I think they need to leave the specifics of that to the coach.
Of course.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think this person, this new president of football operations, should come in here should it be Peters and say we're going to replicate San Francisco necessarily? That's not how. That's how you lose. you know.
Yeah, you got to see the one thing with the coach.
That's what Ron Rivera did.
Yeah.
Well, see the one thing that I would hope because how he built that roster based upon how the coaching staff is that once he sees his coaching staff and what they want, he'll do the same thing in terms of what that coaching staff wants and what his philosophy is. And if it's completely opposite from Shanahan, then hopefully he is adept enough to be able to, okay, well, I'll change course here a little bit and my draft philosophy will go a bit different because of what he does. Like Ben Johnson, if we get Ben Johnson as a head coach, his offensive philosophy is much different than what you have in Kyle Shanahan. So you would hope that he can adapt to that and still build that roster in a philosophical sense to where everything intermeshes appropriately. And that's 100%. The biggest thing, just putting everything together where it makes sense for the philosophy that they run. Not just bring a Shanahan in, but just whatever philosophy is there that he builds to that.
Yeah, I think the real questions that, and we don't know the answers to this, honestly. I don't think, but the questions that, if you're Josh Harris, you're trying to find out, are you a guy who's going to try and build through the draft primarily? Are you going to, the thing that's become in vogue, like try and trade for a bunch of superstars and trade away draft picks to get some quick wins and possibly a short window championship like they did in LA?
Yeah, but I don't think that's very common.
I don't think it is either, but those are the discussions you're having.
The middle, I granted. I mean, the middle ground is kind of what's common because you have on one end you have like the Packers who never sign free agents.
There was one period where they literally had all 55 guys on their roster. Were
right.
Picked.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now, but certainly a lot. And then you do have some teams that wheel and deal like that. But yeah, I think that is the type of thing that this person needs to be on board with the owner about is exactly that. How do we build this roster?
Right. How do you build it? Overall, I think even though, like you said, the philosophy should come from the coach, you're having those discussions.
I'm talking about the offensive systems should come from the coach.
Yeah.
The basic philosophy of, how we're going to organize the team, the structure, how we're going to find the players, how we're going to build the roster is a team president football operations.
But how you build a roster also should play into what philosophy of a coach. Like,
absolutely.
If I'm a guy who's like, I'm good at drafting wide receivers. I can find 8 good wide receivers every draft. Don't hire a run-oriented coach.
Well, to be honest, this is why I'm a bit confused as to why Washington is apparently already lining up head coaching interviews.
I have a good answer for that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Get into that.
Right.
So obviously they're still talking to these guys. They've lined up several guys for interviews. I can run off those names real quick.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so the big name for everyone right now is Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. He's been at that job for I think 2 years, or I think he's been the OC for 1 year, and he was like the, pass game coordinator for a year. He's kind of a quick riser here. Also, Aaron Glenn from the Lions, who's their defensive guy. Anthony Weaver, the defensive line coach for Baltimore, as well as Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for Baltimore. Kind of seen the same way as Ben Johnson, only on the defensive side, where it's this quick rising young coach. Then you have 2 more established guys who've been asked for interviews. Raheem Morris, which I was not expecting that one, and Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, which makes you throw up a little in your mouth as a fan of this team. I know, but you're talking about an ex-head coach.
Norv Turner came from the Cowboys.
Yeah. But Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl when he was the head coach last.
I'm just saying Norv Turner was Washington's most successful non-Joe Gibbs coach.
Yeah, post-Joe Gibbs.
Post-Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
But so why are they doing this though?
I'll tell you why they're doing it now. You have to start getting on these guys' radar. Well, they're busy in the playoffs. They can't even interview yet. But you're lining them up and saying, "We want to talk to you guys. You're like our top candidates."
How do they know who they want to talk to if they don't have a president of football operations?
They aren't idiots. These are most of these guys are going to be the popular names anyway. Like if I were to tell you who are the 10 most likely guys to get a head coaching job next, all these names are on that list, except for maybe Anthony Weaver.
Well, it's just like what John Keim alluded to. Even though we had that list, once the GM or president of football operations is going to come in, you're going to hear a lot more names come in. The way that I'm kind of seeing is pretty much how Alex said, you have a small window on getting these guys just to get the interview process started. But there's no dates for them because obviously we're going to get the GM or president of football operations, whatever, first. And what I'm thinking is that once they're hired, then Josh Harris will turn to whoever and say, well, we got interview requests in for these guys and they're approved. Who else do you want to interview?
Sure.
Or do you not want to interview any of these guys on this list at all? You want to take them off?
That would be reasonable.
Whatever.
See, that's a reasonable course of action. If that's what they're doing, I'm all for it. But if it's, we're going to simultaneously interview head coaches while we're also trying to find a team president of football operations, that's stupid.
No, because none of these guys can interview. I think they can interview the second week of the playoffs, and that's it. So they can't interview until after this weekend.
Well, I mean, the team could allow them to, but they're not going to.
Right. Well, generally speaking.
Well, we have nothing scheduled with those guys yet anyway for those interviews.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised that whoever that we hire as a general manager, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's not even announced yet and they were to bring in some of these coaches that they say, well, we're going to hire you, kind of agree. We haven't announced yet, whatever, how it is, but we're having an interview like today with this coach.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to sit in on that so you can kind of ask your questions, obviously because we're going to announce your hire tomorrow, whatever it is. But I'm sure Josh Harris is going to be smart enough to have the general manager in place before any of these future decisions are made. That's how it was in Philadelphia, and that's how it was in New Jersey. There's no reason why it wouldn't be the same now.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Now,
so.
It is like I said though, this is a list of people who you'd expect anyone looking for a head coach to ask. Ben Johnson's going to be on every team's list, and there's 7 teams now looking for a head coach.
I'm just generally encouraged, I think, just generally about how this approach is. The prior administration, they bring in the drunk. They bring in, Bruce Allen, who's.
Oh, I thought that was the drunk.
No, the drunk was
the other drunk.
The other drunk. The guy who was less drunk or more drunk than Allen. But point is, they have these
challenge of who was actually drunker.
That's true. But it was just a parade of these janky candidates who nobody wanted. But so the fact that they're doing all this and they're interviewing the right people ought to be an encouraging sign, because it's a sign of professionalism and an owner who knows what they're doing, who's trying to build a real team, not some Dan Snyder, bastard contraption, which is what they always were.
I think that's. You're absolutely right. First, the thing I find interesting though is just how many defensive guys they've got on their list this year. Everyone thought that for so long it was get the next offensive mastermind, the next Sean McVay, and I think if you look at this list, Ben Johnson's in that kind of conversation, but everyone else is really defensive for the most part.
Well, Bobby Slowick. He's Slowick.
Bobby Slowick. Yeah, he's also offensive minded.
In fact, I actually really wouldn't be surprised if he winds up being the next. You see what he did with a rookie quarterback and a roster they had down there. The only thing they had offensively really going for them were bookend tackles down there. Outside of that roster wasn't great on offense. Offense.
It was a very young roster. You're right.
Yeah.
But Slovic would definitely be, I guess, the only other offensive guy, though, unless I missed somebody.
This is just a preliminary list, though. There could be others, like you said.
Yeah. Well, so one name that I think will get on there once they've made they're gonna at least want to talk to Mike Vrabel, I'm sure. Who
probably,
was fired by Tennessee. He was having a lot of success there, and just one bad season they kicked him out. So.
And I would like to announce that I have also been contacted and will be interviewing.
Sure. Just everybody's been contacted at this point. The name that I said surprised me, and the more I think about it, the more I kind of like it, would be Raheem Morris. I know he didn't have success in Tampa.
No, that guy's a retread. No retreads.
From what I hear, he's really developed into a very good defensive leader as far as his coaching ability, and people say he's Mike Tomlin like at this point.
If I say what I really think, I'm going to get in trouble.
Okay.
No.
I'm going to say it anyway. I think Raheem Morris is a Rooney Rule interview. That's what I think.
I think if anyone was going to be that, it was probably Anthony Weaver. I think
I don't know if Anthony Weaver's a minority or not. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, first off, they can just say that they'll talk to Eric Bieniemy for 5 minutes and they could cover that if they wanted to.
But that's not a legit. I mean, don't forget, this is a new owner who's trying to do things the right way. Line up because the purpose of the Rooney Rule is to have legitimate candidates. Not Snyder used to pull this all the time. He'd interview somebody for 5 minutes and send him out.
Yeah, he would interview the assistant wide receivers coach.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so and I don't mean it in a disparaging way, so calm down out there listening to me. What I'm saying is Raheem Morris is a retread, and he does not fit with some of the rest of these guys. And it just strikes me as like, we got to have, there's your Rooney Rule right there.
No, I think you're overlooking at what the league thinks of Raheem Morris at this point.
Maybe. I might be wrong. I mean, I'm never wrong, so I doubt it, but
I think you might be wrong on this one, Steve. Just
he's
be aware.
Convince me he's not a retread.
I mean, I can't say he's not a retread because he literally was a coach who failed when he was 30 years old.
So why would you want to recreate that? Look at the teams that have won recently.
Sure.
Most of them
I understand. That's what people want to recreate.
Yeah.
Or is the Sean McVay effect.
Right.
But at the same time, you could argue that some of the greatest coaches of all times completely failed at their first stops. Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but Bill Belichick's certainly case number one. But those are.
It happens. Guys,
right
guys
now,
get that job too young and burn out.
Right now, I think when it comes to Washington, I think it's best they go the route of bringing in that one flashy, new, up-and-coming McVay type of guy, because we've gone too long in doing these type of coaches, bringing in Shanahan.
I tend to agree with that overall. Yes.
Yeah, so granted, granted, I've always been a Raheem Morris fan, especially defensively. I've always liked him, at least demeanor. Now, Brian Flores would be a guy that they had on that list. He wouldn't be a Rooney Rule type of guy. I think he would be a legitimate candidate.
And I don't mean to disparage Raheem Morris either.
No,
it just doesn't fit with the rest of them. That's all I'm really saying.
Well, no, I get that, and where I think Brian Flores, he would have been considered like a kind of a reacher with Miami, but I think they just had a falling out because he wasn't agreeing with their philosophy at that time, but Flores was still a good coach for them. Now you want to talk about someone who's almost Tomlin, Mike. That'd be Brian Flores. I've always been a very big fan of him. If he was on this list, we brought him in, I'd be excited
in that
for him.
mold too. You're right. Yeah.
I'm assuming everybody can dismiss the Bill Belichick room. I don't know what the Twitter Illuminati have said.
There's nothing going on with it.
There's nothing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And John Keim and several other people have kind of said it's nonsense.
It'd be a horrible. It wouldn't be.
It would also be a horrible thing. A horrible move overall.
Be terrible.
Look, Pete Carroll parted ways. I don't think he really got fired. Nick Saban just retired. Bill Belichick's the exact same age. Dude, you're in your early 70s. Just ride off into the sunset at this point,
No, Washington should not try to hire Nick Saban.
No. Now, Jim Harbaugh is the other obvious name from the college ranks that just left.
He's a bit of a wild card,
Yeah, I don't know if I love him either as a head coach option.
He's going to want too much control anyway, and you're going to bring in someone like he's going to bring if you're going to bring in someone like Adam Peters. Nah, it's
not going to go well. Same with Saban. If anybody out there's thinking it, Saban would demand full and total control.
Yeah,
all of that. You don't want that. Saban isn't that good of an NFL.
Officially retired.
Yeah, probably.
I did want to touch on that real quick. Carroll and Saban are arguably two of the greatest head coaches, at least at the college level of all time. I mean,
I don't know if I'd put Pete Carroll in there. I definitely Nick Saban. Carroll was at USC and had success. Is he one of the greatest of all time? I don't know.
I mean, what's his record is something ridiculous, like 90-2
Are you? I'm talking. Are you talking about just college coaches?
I'm just talking about just college for those two.
Yeah, I mean,
of their era, maybe.
Is he really that? Anyway, I don't know if I'd put him up there with Saban. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, Saban's in a league of his own, but Carroll's definitely up there as well.
Quality, yes. Yeah.
And Carroll, one of those rare guys who won a championship in college and the pros. Like, not many guys have done that.
You're gonna make me look up his bio here.
You can look that up while we talk about.
Don't forget about his time in the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pete Carroll,
with the Jets,
head coach of the New York Jets for 1 year.
Not great.
Defensive coordinator in San Francisco, 2 years. Head coach in New England, a couple years. It's 97, 99. Then the head coach at USC, 2001 to 2009, so 8 years there. And then he was two-time national champion. See, Pete Carroll was the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush era coach.
Right.
And so two-time AP national champion, 4-time Rose Bowl, 2-time Orange Bowl, 7-time Pac-10. So he's a great coach. Nick Saban is other level of success. That's all I'm saying.
Nick Saban's, it's him, Bear Bryant, and, I don't even know if there's anyone else in that list.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Like the guys who have that many championships at any level.
There's a couple of all those old Notre Dame guys you could probably throw in there too.
Yeah.
Right.
Back when you had 3 plays and
back in the Rudy era.
Yeah. The Rudy era too. Yes, I was thinking more like the 4 Horsemen era. Probably
you could do that. Yeah, but point is, I mean, it's a small room with it. Nick Saban is in it. I don't think Pete Carroll is in quite. He's in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's in the same small room that Nick Saban's in.
Pop Warner is also probably in there somewhere, hiding balls under your shirt and things like that. That was a legal play. That was, but it's just amazing. Like there's a changing the guard happening because Belichick's in that list too of like that same generation of all-time elite head coaches who are they're getting too old. They gotta go.
Isn't Bill Belichick married to or engaged to or dating someone like dramatically younger than him?
I'm assuming they're all dating somebody dramatically younger than them.
Even if Belichick they're not married to them. Though. I mean, I think what I'm saying is maybe Bill just needs to go hang out with that lady and just be happy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Can he be happy?
Well, I think he's far more happy than he would let on. I think all of that is an act. That's what I think. I'm not saying he's the most cheerful guy in the world, but it looks like an act to me.
It is a little bit of an act.
Yeah. I think he's like amusing himself in part when he just mumbles at the, so Bill, what do you think about the game? Oh, that's what he does. I just think it's kind of.
Did you see how I made the new one cry?
Because me, Alex, I will intentionally say things just to throw some chum in the water, just for the hell of it. And I think Bill does that every week.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure that's part of it. Remember when he let his dog make the draft picks? It didn't go well.
I know, I don't remember that actually, but.
Oh, you don't remember that? Like during the NFL draft during the pandemic, and everyone was doing it from their home. He literally
he had a dog there. That's and the dog was in the seat. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All they show was the dog sitting there, and obviously he's like in another room on a cell phone doing all the work.
If the dog barks once, that it means something.
Yeah, although they didn't have a good draft that year, so the dog.
They don't have a good draft. Bill Belichick, the GM, is terrible. Not as good as Bill Belichick, the coach. Well, same with Ron Rivera.
I think one of the things Harris said that's a very good point. These are 2 full-time jobs. They're 2 80-hour-a-week jobs. It's not realistic to expect anyone to do either well when they have to do both.
By the way, before I forget. So I did a little blurb in my takeaways, final takeaways column, but Dave wrote a much longer piece about it. The best of luck to Ron Rivera. I didn't agree with everything he did.
Mm-hmm.
I especially didn't agree with him publicly chastising Jack Del Rio for expressing an opinion. I really hated that part of it. But beyond that, I thought he was an honorable guy. It just didn't work here. Wasn't a good coach. But he led the team through some really, really challenging times, and so he's a guy to be respected, I think. And best of luck to him.
I think there's no question that he's a highly respected.
Yeah, but Dave's Burgundy and Gold reaction goes into much more detail than I did in my takeaways column.
Yeah, I think as fans, I think we get so emotionally caught up with the game and what's happened with the coaching between the coaches and stuff like that. Sometimes we just kind of turn a cheek to who they are as a person, and I think it's only fair to mention about Ron Rivera, the things he did with that toxic owner he had to deal with. I mean, granted, we had a below 500 record and won the division, and but he kept the locker room together that year, and even with the whole deal with him battling cancer, and we even played Tampa Bay tough in the playoffs.
The siren song of the losing coach.
Well, I'm just saying the overarching theme with that. It's just
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but
I get that out. And I'll point to the way he left this season. I think he didn't go scorched earth like Mike Shanahan.
And like Jay Gruden kind of did too.
Well, Jay got kicked out very quickly.
I know, but he was kind of going scorched earth there toward the end a little bit.
Yeah, well, the team also leaked a video of him 20 years before smoking a joint. It was not a pretty.
Was that old? Was it years before?
That's what they've kind of figured out that it was.
Oh, really?
It might not have been 20, but it was.
Well, years before.
That was one outside the bar with those.
Yeah.
He was sitting there with some random babe next to him smoking something. He had some thing he was smoking in his hand, and
yes, we don't know what it was.
But it was a rolled.
Yes, hand rolled of some kind.
Yes.
Regardless, Shanahan went with no class in the end.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say. You could look at Jim Zorn. He was just a buffoon. He was
just way over his head.
Yeah. So I don't hold ill will to him, but he was over his head. Spurrier just outright quit on the team.
He went with total no class move by Spurrier.
Right. So I give Ron credit. As bad as this season was, and it was a bad season, statistically one of the worst in team history.
Yeah.
He held he held everything together as best he could.
Don't forget who blessed the hiring though. Joe Gibbs blessed the hiring, and Joe Gibbs
blesses every hiring.
But he's not. But if the guy's just a scumbag, I don't think Gibbs would publicly bless the hiring.
Right. Well, he did push for him in the very beginning for him to come in.
Because Rivera's an honorable guy. Gibbs likes honorable people.
Yeah. Well, I understand that about Gibbs. I think sometimes to a fault with him.
But maybe. I mean, everybody has their faults. Yeah.
Yeah. That I think he overlooks flawed people a bit too much, like Dan Snyder. He thinks everyone's a good person.
Dan Snyder's flawed. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another show on that. It was a lot of other shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. We should get a little back on track. We talked a little bit about the coaches. No, it's all of our fault. It's everyone's fault.
I'm taking one for the team. Let me do it. My fault.
We should touch on the wild card round that's coming up, right? So we got 6 games this weekend.
I have the schedule right in front of me. Let me do this real quick.
You want to do rapid? All right.
Yeah, because by the way, we're going to publish a wild card preview. I'm going to keep going with the previews through the Super Bowl. But here's the schedule. Saturday, the 13th, Browns at Texans, first game, 4:30 Eastern. Browns number 5, Texans number 4, 8 p.m. Eastern. Dolphins number 6 at Chiefs number 3. That's Saturday. Sunday games are 3 of them. A 1 o'clock game, the earliest game, Steelers at Bills. 4:30 is Packers at Cowboys, number 7 versus number 2. 8 p.m. is the Rams versus the Lions. And the Monday night game, they have another Monday game this year, the Eagles at the Buccaneers. And so the one that's catching everybody's let's just go through in order real fast. How about that? Browns at Texans. Let's go Browns at Texans, the Saturday early game. That is a really interesting game, I think, and they're really, really closely matched in some ways. The Browns have this unbelievable defense, but C.J. Stroud did not play in the last game they had earlier in the year. But at the end of the day, I think I'm kind of rooting for the Texans from an emotional standpoint here.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, their Browns defense is probably too much for them.
I'm going to root against the Browns until Deshaun Watson's no longer with the Browns.
Well, I'm not rooting for him either. I'm just saying objectively, I think the Browns are probably too much.
Like you said, on an emotional level, it's more me rooting against the Browns. I'm not necessarily rooting for the Texans.
I'm in Houston and everything.
So. Yeah, I get it. I get that. Yeah, that Browns team though, even with Joe Flacco kind of leading them, they were very productive on offense. Right. That is a well-built team overall right now. Great defense, like you said, and they plugged in how many different quarters have they used? 4 quarterbacks this season?
Oh, yeah, I think it's 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've still made the playoffs. That's impressive.
It's just the Texans who kind of outkick their coverage a little bit here. They don't have a ton of talent.
Rookie quarterback. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the Browns, I get and I agree with the whole thing with Watson, how they went down and everything, but let's think about this though. How great would it be to see Flacco take this team and actually win a Super Bowl? And then they go back to Watson and they never sniff an AFC Championship game again under Watson. Honestly, but see, that is kind of where it's like I kind of set aside the whole Watson thing because I'm thinking, have Flacco win them a championship and Watson never sniff a game in a AFC Championship game. That's kind of what I'm rooting for a little bit inside, with all that. Although I love the Texans, I love Stroud and so forth. But I think you're right, Steve. I think they kind of outkick their coverage a little bit on that.
It's kind of a perverse logic a little bit what you're talking about, but it does make some sense.
By the way, if Watson was playing this, could you imagine what the hoopla would be because of the whole him leaving Houston thing?
I would like to point out, though, that don't forget, as to what Dave said, Deshaun Watson has a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
The Browns are stuck with him, whether or not they want him, whether or not he ever plays again, and nobody will trade for him with a $230 million guaranteed contract with a guy who's a mess, who has not played, and is clearly everything that went on with him has ruined his mindset and his everything. So the Browns it's a disaster for him,
Here's how I would trade for him, Steve. They need to give me 10 first-round picks, and I'll take the contract off their hands.
I don't think you can even trade that many first-round picks.
No, you can only go 3 years out. Yeah. All right, I need 3 first, second, and third-round picks, and then I'll take his stupid contract.
Give me all the picks.
Yeah. That's the only way they're ever going to get rid of him. All right, next game.
Okay. Dolphins at Chiefs.
Yeah.
Now, this one's interesting because this is the one that's only on Peacock.
Right.
This is not broadcast. The Browns in Texas is NBC, Peacock, Telemundo. This one's just Peacock, meaning those of you who are not Xfinity cable subscribers like I am and get Peacock for free, you probably don't have Peacock. Fortunately, I have a way of watching it anyway.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to know, DM us and we will tell you how to get it without Peacock. But I'm not broadcasting it because they don't want it broadcast.
And I also have Peacock, which mostly because my wife loves The Office and she likes to watch it at night before bed.
So in terms of this game, you know who the Dolphins remind me a little bit of? The San Diego Chargers under Dan Fouts.
Yeah.
Because they have an unbelievable offense. Their offense is the best offense in the NFL.
No question.
And statistically they're there too. But their defense kind of sucks. And so this is why ultimately they weren't that successful. But all the same, the Chiefs had a weirdly unsuccessful year. They went through stretches where they didn't look good. Right. They lost Tyreek Hill.
They've been clear that their offense is a mess.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's the Chiefs in Kansas City. And I just refuse to believe that they're going to go out in the wild card. So call it a hunch, but I think the Chiefs somehow pull it out, even though the Dolphins are probably a better team. At least offensively they are.
Well, if you think about it, who the Dolphins have beaten this year, I don't think they've beaten one playoff team this year at all anyways.
That's because their defense sucks.
Right. And now they lost Bradley Chubb to an ACL, so their defense is even weaker now. Now they got to go out to Kansas City where the wind chill is going to be right around 0 to like -5 or something like that. So the temperature is not going to play well into their hand either. I don't see this game going any other way but Kansas City. Even though Kansas City leads the league in drops for their receivers, and although their defense is very good, their defense is good this year for Kansas City. But until they get something right, Kansas City might be one and done in the playoffs. So I go with Kansas City on that.
Yeah.
I think the smart money is Kansas City. The thing I'll be interested in seeing is how Tyreek Hill plays in this game against Andy.
That's a good
Andy
point.
Reid knows this
Yeah.
man very well. How do they do that matchup? Or does because I think it's fair to say he's still probably the best receiver in the league. Like play in, play
Certainly
out.
one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the top couple.
If you're gonna pick one guy that you have to throw one ball to make a touchdown, he's gonna be near your top of your list, if not.
Tyreek Hill is one of those guys I just cannot root for because he's such a total slime ball.
I get it.
I agree with your analysis. I'm just
Yeah.
saying emotionally, I can't root for the guy.
I get it. But that's gonna be the interesting thing for me to watch.
All right. Next game, Steelers at Bills. This one's the laugher. There's no way the Steelers are going to be competitive, and they're starting Mason Rudolph, who's their third string quarterback. Everybody else is hurt. The Bills, Josh Allen. I don't think they were as successful this year as they really wanted to be, and they went through a couple games, so they didn't look like you'd think the Buffalo Bills would.
They fired their OC at one point.
Yeah, but this game is going to be a laugher. This is a blowout, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, the most interesting part of this game is the weather is supposed to be absolutely insane up there. It's not just because there's snow and the cold. The wind, instead of going from end zone to end zone, is actually they're projecting it being like sideline to sideline up to like 24-mile-an-hour gusts. And of course you're going to get some swirling winds in there and everything. It's going to be a crazy day for trying to throw the football at all. It's actually going to be
funny you say that because Josh Allen is not that accurate,
right,
in the first place.
Right.
But he also has 524 rushing yards.
Yep.
And they have James Cook, who's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. So either way, they'll be fine. The Steelers are not going to win this game. It won't be competitive. It won't be 50-0, but this is not going to be a competitive game. Okay. Packers at Cowboys. This is the 4:30 game on Fox. Fox Deportes. The Cowboys on a roll, dude. I get it, the Packers, but I think the Cowboys are going to roll through this game.
I hate it, but you're probably right.
I still have not really seen the Cowboys beat a legitimate playoff team. They're not going to lose against the Packers, but I think this is going to be one of these things to where it's like the Cowboys are very realistically going to be one and done and be a disappointment for their fans again because, well, then again, I don't know because they're probably going to get the Eagles next anyway. So they might actually make it as far as the actual NFC Championship game by default, really. But no, I agree. It's just I think the Cowboys, especially they're undefeated at home anyway. So it's going to be a tough uphill climb for the Packers.
Okay, so because San Francisco would get.
San Francisco will get the lower seed, no matter who it is.
So they would. Yeah, so they were going to get if the Packers happened to beat Dallas, San Francisco. So Dallas would get.
Dallas would likely get the Lions next, I would think.
Well, no, the Lions are the third seed, and so they would get probably the winner of the Eagles and Buccaneers.
Okay,
Dallas.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, so that is Packers Cowboys. We're running out of time here. Rams at Lions. This one's I think a closer game. I think the games on Saturday are more interesting than the games on Sunday, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Rams at Lions. Neither one of these teams. The Lions are kind of the darlings of the NFL a little bit right now. Because they had another team that kind of outkicked their coverage a little bit.
Yeah, everyone kind of had them at 5-6 wins.
Yeah, and the Rams, no. So I think the big money will be on the Lions in this one, and they'll be kind of the hot team to look at, I think. And they'll probably, at the end of the day, they'll probably pull out a win.
The thing with this is that matchup with Stafford coming back into Detroit right there. Well, there's going to be a lot of emotion in that right there.
They flipped quarterbacks. Goff was from LA.
No, sure, right.
It is interesting, but
yeah,
I think that kind of works out as a wash between.
It's kind of like you switch spouses with your neighbor and then go to dinner with them later. Like I have a perfect one. It's everybody know who Mutt Lange is. That rock producer. He produced AC/DC and Def Leppard. Mutt Lange was married to Shania Twain, the country singer, the pop country singer. So Mutt Lang then had an affair with Shania Twain's best friend and ended up marrying that woman. Then Shania Twain married that woman's ex-husband. So they literally flip-flopped. That's
Wow.
kind of what the
Weird.
Rams and the Lions, yeah, it's very weird. That's what the Rams and the Lions kind of did. The Rams and the Lions are Shania Twain and Mutt Lang, basically.
Is Matt Stafford the Shania Twain in this thing?
Who's the biggest pretty boy in this?
Yeah,
That's basically
yeah.
what you're asking.
Kind of. Yeah, I think the Rams have a good shot in this. I don't know why. I just got a gut feeling that they could win this one. All right, let's talk last game.
Last
Philly
one,
versus
Eagles
Tampa.
at Buccaneers. Eagles number 5, Buccaneers number 4. It's in Tampa. The Eagles have been such a total train wreck over the past 6 weeks. I refuse to give them any credit until somebody shows me they still know how to be a football team. If you'd hit me up in like week 4, I'd say the Eagles are going to roll in this game because the Bucs aren't that good. But the Eagles have just been a total mess. So until they prove otherwise, Buccaneers.
Well, right now, in the last 6 games, they're like the flip. Eagles have lost 5 of the last 6, where Bucs have won 5 of the last 6.
Yep.
And I think that's going to change here. I think the Eagles will find a way of pulling this one out.
Do you really?
And I think they will. I actually think they're going to want to pull this game out, and I think they will win this game.
I'm going Tampa. I think it's kind of a toss up. I kind of want to root for Baker Mayfield though.
Sure, yeah.
The guy got screwed over wrongly, I feel like, by the Browns. So,
But the Browns do everything wrong.
I know.
They're like the Washington of the AFC.
They really have been, except for the fact that they've had some success.
Washington's won 2 playoff games in 30 years?
Right, exactly.
Isn't it 2? Isn't it 2 or is it 3?
Actually, they set the tone for Washington in the NFC because they were a bad organization before.
They were a screw up before. Yeah, that's true. They were, and so were the Lions too.
Yeah.
So
Lions are the only one who's probably been worse.
Just think about this. If those of you want to be depressed, the Packers several times won more playoff games in 1 year than Washington has won in the last 30 years combined. Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was depressing. Let's go out on that note, right?
Let's end on that. The fun part would be it's all over, though. You have an owner, to summarize the first discussion, who's trying to do things the right way. And granted, I kind of agree with you, maybe, Alex, about the coaches. They're kind of lining up coaches interviews, maybe, but they're trying to pick the right guy to run the team. And if you want a positive, that is it. And they've got the right guys doing the interviews with the guy from the Warriors, and Spielman's been around forever. Though that he's doing it right, so be excited about that.
Okay, so here's the final question as we close out, because let's end on a better. When will we hear they've selected their GM? When will we see the white smoke, and who will it be?
Oh, I think it'll be the next day or two. They got to do it fast.
And
I think it'll be this week.
I think we've already kind of seen the smoke a little bit. I think it's going to be Adam Peters. I think it'll be announced tomorrow.
Okay. All right. I agree with you guys. It'll be before the end of the week. Probably tomorrow, maybe. They probably
say tomorrow. That would be Thursday, the day that you're listening to this, just incidentally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it probably will be Thursday.
Because if you think about it, because all the GMs will be done, all the potential GMs will be done their interviews by today.
They've got to get a GM in place.
Yes.
Now, so they can start on the coaching. For
correct.
Real. That's the urgency.
Yep. I'm all right. So we'll say Thursday, and what we all agree.
My interview for the head coaching position has not been set yet. I'll report back once I get a confirmation.
Well, I thought you were going for Jason Wright's old job.
I could do that too.
Yeah.
Whichever one they want. I actually. Well, what would I be best in? I'm great at everything, so I don't know. It's tough. Well,
you would be bored as the lawyer because no Dan Snyder means you're just not like that active.
There's plenty of contracts to review. We
That's
could
true.
always do that.
You would actually be doing the stadium contract.
There's more than you know.
I know.
I just figure you'd be the chief executive accounting officer.
I could do that too.
See?
I could be the salary cap guy. You want me to do that? I could do that.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go, indeed. All right, guys, that wraps
almost
up.
Almost like I'm making this up.
No, we're not. All right, we will see you all next week.
Later.